Joachim Trier, it's great to see you back in Cannes with the new film in competition.
Thank you.
Did you consider from the beginning this new film as the third part of the Oslo trilogy after Reprise and Oslo August 31st?
Actually, we didn't. It was a moment in my creative collaboration with Eskil Vogt where we sat down after Thelma and we'd done a film which was more of a genre movie, and I said I need to make a film where we go back to scratch. We go back to the basics, trying to do a kind of more naturalist but romantic vision of Oslo. And it's been 10 years since Oslo August 31st. And I want to do it with Renate Reinsve, and I want to have Anders again so we can track his aging process. And then when we had written the film, I showed it to Anders and he said, it's thematically connected, Joachim, but it's different. So it's not critique, it's good. I think you should call it the third part in the trilogy.
Why not?
Yeah.
And I'm curious about the meaning of the original title. The English translation is The Worst Person in the World. You can take it ironically, I guess, but is it similar to the Norwegian title? What was your intention?
I think it's a term in Norwegian to say verdens verste menneske. It means the worst person in the world, and it's something that you often point towards yourself. Maybe it's because Norway might be a bit of a Protestant culture. There's a lot of self-deprecation, and I think it's the title plays with the idea of Julie trying to find love in relationships to others, but she also needs to accept herself, and I think she has a lot of feeling of failure of finding her job, her raison d'être, like what am I doing? What is my relationship going to be? When am I going to grow up? And so she feels a bit like the worst person in the world.
It's a pity because she's an amazing character. She's a young woman you fall in love with. She's very moving, great, of course self-depreciating maybe. And how did you create this character? Did you already have the actress Renate in mind when you write this female character with Eskil?
Yeah, I actually did. It was funny because Renate had one line of dialogue in Oslo August 31st. So she played a tiny part.
And it was her first feature film.
Yeah, and it was the first time. She was just out of school. And I always thought, oh my God, I wish I had given her a bigger part because she's amazing. She's going to be something. And then she did great theater, but she didn't really get any roles in cinema, in film, So I thought, okay. I had her into the casting on Thelma for a different part, and she was so good, but she was wrong for the part. So I've been looking for something. So I finally said, you know what, let's write her a part. And she fitted this, her moment in her life. She could also come in to the script process, just having turned 30, and really give us good feedback and help us develop the character further after the first draft.
And about Anders Danielsen Lee, it's your regular actor in your films. It's like a little bit your alter ego. Did you identify yourself with this character? Is getting older, and there is some kind of contrast between his generation and her generation. A lot of things have changed in between.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I started out thinking that was going to be the kind of representation of myself, obviously, because it was an easier character to write at the beginning. But then we kind of jumped to Julie and started writing her, and then I realized I connected with her as well. And then we went to Eivind, and that became me as well. So in a strange way, it's very liberating to write characters because you can put yourself, an element of yourself, into them. And I also think that working with Anders, it was kind of interesting to create this character that has this retrospective idea of middle age, because it kind of mirrors the other films that we've made together.
And how did you did you find the structure, the narrative structure of the film? Is 12 chapters, a prologue, an epilogue. Did it arrive very early in the writing process?
I think we decided that we were going to make a film, a little bit like Reprise, our first film 15 years ago, that had a sense of literariness, a literary structure. because we wanted also for it to be melodrama. We wanted to be very close to the characters and show their vulnerability and be very emotional. And we wanted it to then have chapters so that we have the dynamic. Sometimes the voiceover is creating a distance where the audience can fill themselves in, and also the idea that between the chapter her life's developed. So we follow her over several years, and we have to kind of imagine some of the transitions. We don't tell all the moments, and I thought that created a breathing space for those very intense, intimate scenes.
The film is a portrait of a young lady, it's a portrait of a city, it's also the portrait of our time, of the world we are living in, our society, with a lot of new moral issues, new topics. It's very modern in a way. It's, you're talking about issues that are very important today, and with a kind of moral and point of view.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of unavoidable when you make a film in a year. We wrote it in a year, and we wanted to, a bit like when we did Oslo August 31st, we put him in a cafe and we recorded conversation from that time 10 years ago. And this time we also wanted her to encounter different environments and to mirror discussions that we felt were relevant in the moment. But I want to say this because we live in a time now very different from 10 years ago. Everyone has a strong opinion. The climate of discourse in politics is very aggressive, and you got to choose sides all the time. But the wonderful thing about storytelling is that one could be more compassionate for the complex thing that, as Renoir says, everyone has their reason, you know. And I always come from that tradition. I don't want to make antagonists. So when we deal with subjects like cancel culture or Me Too, or we deal with the sense of male female power interplay, I'm trying to do it with a big heart and generosity. I don't want to make a polemical film, you know. I want it to be a film where I hope people can watch it and then go to a cafe or a bar and talk afterwards and disagree, but in a kind of a generous way.
I was very moved and very impressed by the performances of the actors and your mise en scène. So
thank you
and congratulations again, Joachim.
Thank you so much.
Akkurat det her, det er sånn gammelt, der står det med sånne bølger og sånn. Nei, ikke gjør det. Nei, ikke sånn. Ikke sånn. Nei. Du tar den haspen der. Jeg er så redd du skal knuse. For jeg liker å sitte der og se.
Du tuller.
Nei, kødder ikke.
Du tuller nå.
Du, sånn er det. Sånn er det å være et forhold.